Hi, my name is Vanessa Lund, and I'm a computer science major here at Mount Mercy, and I am a junior this year. So I worked on this project with my classmate, Caleb Baker. We are both into video games, and so it was a really natural collaboration for us to do. And we did this in our web programming class, which is part of the web development specialization of computer science. And for this project, we learned HTML Canvas, and then we used some things that we had done previously in the class, like a little CSS, and then JavaScript code makes up the majority of the actual gameplay. So for this project, we wanted to do something that was related to Mount Mercy, that took place on campus, so that it would be familiar and recognizable for anyone watching this. And it's not polished in any way, but there's usually a lot more than two people working on a video game, so we've focused on the functionality of our own parts. Over the past couple weeks, I made the navigation, just like moving around, moving the character from place to place, and the chemistry minigame, which we'll get into later. And Caleb worked on both of the art minigames, and he will explain those in his presentation, but I will just run through them quickly to show the flow of the game overall. Alright, so let's get into it. It's August 11th, 2020, and a derecho has just swept through the Mount Mercy University campus. The strong winds broke one of the stained glass windows in Stello, and your job is to fix it. You'll need to head to Ward first to mix colors in the art room, then go to Donnelly to make glass in the chemistry lab, and finally put together the new window for the chapel. Good luck! So for this, we really took inspiration from not only the destruction of the derecho, but also the way that everyone came together to help out afterwards. And so in this game, you play as the Mount Mercy Mustang, and basically we made up 3 tasks that you have to do to replace the stained glass window and make it your own. So first we start just on campus, and then moving around is just using the arrow keys. Left and right moves you left and right, and the up arrow is jumping. So this was actually a lot more challenging than I anticipated, doing the navigation for this. And I will just show you part of the code. So the navigation code itself is this. And I am not super familiar with JavaScript, so this was kind of a big introduction to JavaScript doing this project. And there was just a lot of things that I didn't really think about or anticipate having to incorporate. So like friction and gravity and player speed and velocity in the X and Y directions, and incorporating the arrow keys into the actual game. Just a lot of different elements that you don't always think about when you play a game. I play a lot of video games, and getting into computer science has really, it just amazes me now playing any game, just knowing the level of work and all of the layers that go into the finished product is just really cool. So here we are outside of Ward. I used a picture that was taken after the derecho for the background of this, as you can see. And then we are just jumping over some fallen logs. You can assume that they're debris, branches from the derecho. And let's go inside. This is designed to all flow together and go one right into the next, but this is not the machine that I created this on originally, and it's not working exactly how it's supposed to, but just bear with me. So this is Caleb's art mixing colors tool, and I will let him explain this, but I will just go through it just for the sake of completing the game here. So we are done, and now the goal is to head to Donnelly to make the glass for the window, now that we have the colors. But there's something blocking the door. But there is another way to get to Donnelly from here, and that way is the tunnel. I really wanted to incorporate the tunnels because I think it's so cool that Mount Mercy has tunnels. I transferred from the University of Iowa, and after walking 30 minutes back and forth to class in the snow and ice, I really appreciate the tunnels. So let's enter the tunnel. This is not exactly the same as navigating the tunnels under Mount Mercy in real life. There are no pipes to jump over and no flowing water, I will admit that, but I did take some artistic liberty because it's a lot more fun to actually move a little character around and have obstacles. So, alright, we made it. Let's get to the lab. So this is the chemistry minigame. This was the first part of the game that I created. And basically, I looked up what is glass made out of. And the most common type of glass is soda lime silica glass. And it's been a long time since I've taken a chemistry class. This is probably not 100% scientifically accurate, but I used those 3 elements and just put them in a checklist. And basically the player has to just look at the names and then recognize what that should be. So silicon dioxide, 1, and then 2 oxygen. That's basically all it is. And then finish that. Just go down the list, sodium oxide and calcium oxide. Alright, so we have successfully made the glass. And I do want to get into the code of that a little bit, because this was, again, difficult for me. Just all of the layers and all of the elements that I didn't really anticipate having to add. So, I mean, the graphic elements was probably the hardest thing for me just starting out, because I had never used the canvas element of HTML before. And, you know, I've basically just coded in Java and Python, and making video games is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I just haven't really got into it, so this was just a really cool step for me to actually create something that you can see and that reacts to when you click it or when you press the buttons. So all of this is the chemistry game, and there are just a lot of different elements. So like these functions happen when you click these buttons. And here's the reset button. So I can reset, well, I already did that. So I can reset what I did before. So if you mess up here, then you can reset it. And basically just things like that, small elements that, you know, a real game would have, but you might not think to actually put in. This, it took me a while to actually, it's not necessarily polished, but it took me a while to polish it to the extent that it is, just because there are so many things that you don't think about originally that need to be done. And so all of this code is what went into just the chemistry minigame. And so now if we finish this here, this again is Caleb's part. And I just think this part is so cool. So basically we're creating a new stained glass window, and you just get to color it however you want, which I just think is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Caleb did talk about, you know, if we were to expand this, maybe like having this so where you could save your drawing, or where you could print it out and actually have it, which would just be so cool. But this is the finished product. This is the new stained glass window, and now we have fixed the stained glass window, made a new one, and it is all good to go. So this is not a super complicated game. It's not super polished, but we did it in just a couple weeks, and I think for both of us it was just really eye-opening to see how much goes into a game, how much goes into the gameplay, how much goes into, you know, what the player has to do to strategize to win the game. And even just in this minimalistic game, it's just so cool to actually see the final product and to be able to move the character and to be able to interact with the canvas. So we had a lot of fun. I don't want to speak for Caleb. I had a lot of fun making this game, and it's so cool to be able to share it and to finally have a finished product to show. And I am just really excited for this opportunity. I'm excited to showcase it, and there are a lot of things that we would have added if we would have had more time or more experience. But for a first game, I'm pretty proud of it, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching.